The relationship between Emily and Weston becomes increasingly tense, and an unexpected intimate encounter further complicates their emotions. However, a threatening letter from the Silver Bullet puts Emily's safety at risk. Can she survive this unknown crisis? Emily's challenges are escalating. Subscribe to our channel to find out how she handles them first. Chapter 13. So let me get this straight. You got detention with Weston. Jade's clear blue eyes bulged out slightly. Do I even want to know? I groaned and rubbed my face in irritation. He's just an idiot, that's all. And because of him being an idiot, you bailed on shopping with me. Jade stomped her foot and whined, her black hair bouncing as she did. Why can't my idiot of a brother just share you for once? It's not like that. Look, I have to go or I'll be getting another detention. I sighed and hugged her quickly. We'll go shopping another time, I promise. Walking down the school's empty hallways, I finally made it to Mr. Jenkins' room. I scowled when I saw Weston. Apparently, we were the only ones who received detention for today. How did I get so lucky? Note the sarcasm. Making sure I sat as far away as possible from him, I read the carved-in words of other students on the wooden desk and tried my best not to look at Weston. All right then, Mr. Jenkins clapped his hands once. He stood up from his desk, stretched, and straightened out his light blue button-up shirt. I have to go do some business in the office. You two know the basics. No eating, no skipping, no goofing around, and most importantly, for the both of your sakes, no talking. Thomas scoffed. I turned back to glare at him, but he waved me off. Mr. J, you know that is impossible. Yeah, well, I tried, our teacher replied and groaned. Sir, please don't leave me with, I pointed at Thomas in disgust, that thing. I tried my puppy dog look that consisted of widening my green eyes a bit, pouting my lower lip and scrunching up my eyebrows. Mr. J simply raised one eyebrow and looked at me in disbelief. His expression read something along the lines of seriously. Not going to work. Thomas tried to hold back his laughter, but cracked, ending up in a laughing fit. He finally calmed down and pointed a finger at me. Phew, what kind of face was that? You looked like a cow that's constipated. How do you know what a cow that's constipated looks like, huh? I challenged using a nagging voice. Well, obviously, just look at you. I gasped. I am not a cow. I heard a door slam and found that Mr. Jenkins escaped from us. Smart man, I thought. I'm stuck with stupid again. I groaned for the 1000th time today. See, poor Mr. Jenkins. You just like him because like every girl around here thinks he's like so hot. Thomas replied in a failed attempt at a girl voice, crossing his arms and throwing me one of his smirks. To tell you the truth, his smirk fit him well. Well, everything fit him well. He wasn't as hot as a Greek god or any god for that matter because he was so much hotter. His strong, angular jaw clenched when he was mad or when he was concentrated. His blue eyes shined out of his perfectly tanned skin and black hair that was whipped into a messy style. I found it hard not to stare at his sculpted chest and broad shoulders that were only being covered by a thin layer of gray cloth. Oh, and his lips. His lips were nice. Even when they spoke the meanest things or curved into a cocky smirk. I realized I was gawking at him and shook my head furiously in an effort to shake off the trance I was in. I don't like him, I snapped. You do. I don't. You do. No. Yes. No. I got up to throw my trash and stood there crossing my arms. Idiot, I don't like him. Owen changed the score. At one point for me. I smiled in victory and did a little dance called the Cabbage Patch in my head. I smirked when his face scrunched up. Why? Thomas asked in disbelief. I got the last word in our previous argument. What? Yeah, I won that one. Remember the cow one? Yeah, I vaguely remembered I got the last word. I playfully tapped my chin and looked at the ceiling as if I was recalling the argument. Thomas got up slowly and stood across me, leaning against a desk. He smirked. So who do you like, cow? No one, I simply stated in a monotone voice. Liar. I am not a liar. Thomas took a step toward me. I took a step back. Perhaps you like Jared. There was a hint of jealousy in his tone, but I ignored it and almost laughed at his accusation. He's like my brother, idiot. I rolled my eyes and crossed my arms again. He took another step forward while I took another step back. Eli. Seriously? I asked in disbelief and let out a small laugh. That's not possible. Again he took another step forward and I took another step back. This continued with him throwing out random names and me denying everyone, because I didn't like any one of them. I almost yelped when my back finally hit the wall and Thomas came closer to me, leaning his lower arm on the wall above my head. I blinked a couple of times when I realized the situation I was in right now. His smell surrounded me and I inhaled it. The scent of a sweet woodsy scent filled my nostrils and I almost closed my eyes in satisfaction. If I could take his cologne and bathe in it, I would. The heat from his body radiated onto my skin from the close proximity, and it felt good. My hands twitched, wanting to pull him closer, but I regained composure. Instead of gripping him closer, I crossed my arms above my belly and my hands gripped my jacket. I looked up to see that his eyes searched mine and his lips were so close that it almost brushed against mine when he talked. "I think I know who you like," he said in a low voice, slightly smirking. His warm breath was somehow cool on my face. I held back a shiver of pleasure and gulped loudly. "Who?" I replied, waiting for an answer. Thomas leaned into my ear as if to tell me a secret. "Is it me?" he whispered, his lips brushing against my ear. A shiver went down my spine and I almost collapsed when Thomas playfully grazed my earlobe. "Look who's finally getting along," a voice teased. I pushed away Thomas and found Mr. Jenkins standing at the door with his arms crossed. Amusement was written all over his face. I felt the blood rush up from my neck and color my cheeks. "It's not what it looks like," I stammered and gulped loudly. I practically ran to my desk, trying to get as far away from Weston. I put my head down, trying to get back a normal heart rate and calm down. I peeked up and found Thomas across the room. He smirked and pointed a finger at him, throwing up 3 fingers. I groaned internally. Weston 3 points. Emily 2 points. The rest of detention, I wondered if he actually just did all of that to win this stupid game of ours. I flopped down on my bed and sighed. I relished the comfortable feel of my soft memory foam bed and warm comforter. I closed my eyes for a bit, feeling the cool breath of the air conditioner. Today was definitely not my day, and feeling this relaxed felt a bit odd. I groaned when there was a knock on the door and Darren popped his head into my room. "Hey sis," Darren said and looked at my tired face with caution. "Let me guess. You're PMSing. But Emily, that's 6,000 times this month already," he joked. "Oh, shut up, Darren. Get out." I whined and threw my arm over my eyes. He laughed and said, "I'm kidding. Bad week." "Yep. Welcome to high school, little sis. I just came by to drop off your mail. Looks like someone has a secret admirer." Darren dropped a Tiffany blue envelope on my desk and winked. I jolted upright in bed. "What? Stop pretending you don't know. I'm totally fine with you having a crush and all. But if this guy is some creep," I was expecting Darren to say something about beating him up and protecting me, but instead he said, "Well, good luck with that." I threw a pillow in his direction. Instead of hitting him, it hit one of the stands that held my fake flowers, almost toppling over the porcelain vase. I groaned, hating myself for having bad hand-eye coordination. "Okay, fine, I'll leave." Darren feigned hurt. He shut the door behind him. I got up from my bed and walked slowly to the envelope that was calling me. This could be from anyone. Weston. Nah, I thought he's too much of an idiot to do this. I picked up the huge envelope and fingered the edges, inspecting it. At the front, there was a huge heart drawn with a black marker, and my name scribbled in the middle. That wasn't Weston's handwriting. However, the writing looked vaguely and hauntingly familiar. I ripped open the envelope and I shook with fear before I even finished reading it. There in my hands was a picture collage of me sneaking out of my room, me straddling Weston, and me in detention. Also, scribbled messily in black marker across the glossy paper read, "MS. Innocent not so innocent. Classic. Hopefully this doesn't end up in the wrong hands. Perhaps your mother's pretty little hands. Love, the silver bullet." Chapter 14. My trembling fingers dropped the photo that suddenly felt like acid in my hands. The sweat on my forehead only worsened even in the freezing temperature my room was in now. It seemed cramped up, although I was in a room the size a mansion could hold. Double-checking that my windows and doors were locked shut, and that my curtains were drawn didn't calm the unease I felt in my stomach. I clutched my stomach, suddenly feeling sick. Throwing up sounded like a good idea, but nothing came out. My head started to spin and my world suddenly came crashing down right in front of me. I thought it was some prank. Some stupid joke that someone wanted to play on the new girl. But I underestimated this person. She or he was cleverer than I thought. Someone didn't like me. In fact, it seemed that they wanted me gone. I caught my terrified face in the mirror across the room. All color was drained from my face. I caught the glistening of tears streaming down my cheeks, which I didn't know was there before. Just then a thought crossed my mind. Was the silver bullet watching me now, laughing at my misery, thinking that my tears and life was just some humiliating and entertaining game to play with? Was I just some kind of toy to play with? No, I thought. This silver bullet will not gain satisfaction. I stood up straight, holding my head up high. I set my eyes in a straight, deadly glare, turning around slowly, making he or she know they were watching. I tried my best to set on a good poker face. Setting my mouth in a thin line, I grabbed the photo off the ground and spoke up. You think this is funny? Well, guess what? I asked, being surprised at how confident I sounded. Nobody's laughing. I grabbed my purse from the stand near the door and my car keys in the bowl near it. Slipping on my boots, I left my room. I needed to get out of here. I felt closed up and watched in there. Needing comfort and company, Thomas was the first person to come to mind. I'm leaving, my voice echoed off the walls as I flew down the stairs. Someone going to see a special someone? Darren piped in, poking his head through one of the corridors. He smirked and winked at me. I rolled my eyes. Just a friend. Friend, huh? Is it the same one who gave you that love letter? He waggled his eyebrows and came into the front room. I turned frigid and without knowing, I gave him an icy glare. That note was bad news. I shook it off quickly. Darren could not know about this. I rolled my eyes and crossed my arms. Come on, Rennie, you know I don't have a boyfriend. I used the nickname I gave him a long time ago, knowing he hated it. A girlfriend. And I have nothing against same-sex relationships. I find it cool. It's just a part of the book. I gave him a pointed look and punched him playfully. It was just a small, light punch on the arm, but he plummeted through the air and crashed on the floor, clutching the arm I punched. My eyes grew wide with horror. I didn't even punch him that hard. Ow, Darren said, letting out a string of profanities. I knelt next to his figure on the ground. I'm so sorry, Darren. I didn't know it was that hard. Gosh, Dan, I was just kidding. Damn, you hit like a man. You're more of a woman, Darren managed to wheeze out. I thought for a moment. That didn't make any sense. Because you're a dumbass, and you're a panty. She-Hulk. Twig. PMS monster. Oh, I'm Darren and I got hurt by a girl. Oh, I'm Emily and I'm able to swing my legs when I sit on the curb. Are you saying that I'm short? I gasped. Wow, do you need me to tell you slowly so you would understand? Do you want? What is going on in here? Aunt Feli's southern accent boomed in the room. She wiped her hands on a small rag and knelt on the other side of Darren with big, wide eyes. Sonny, let me see that arm of yours. No, I'm really ill. Darren started to protest, covering his arm. Oh, shut that pie hole of yours. It's bigger than a cow's hide. Aunt Feli smacked away Darren's arm and slowly lifted up the shirt sleeve. Darren winced when she accidentally touched it. She whistled. Oh boy, is that a winner. I looked at the huge, circular, black and blue bruise already forming and guilt made its way onto my face. I didn't even hit him hard. That never even happened to anyone I hit before. May I add that I have hit them with all the strength in my body. I gasped, forming an O with my mouth. Shit, I muttered. What happened? Aunt Feli asked. Emily hit me. Darren whined, pointing at me like a 5-year-old child. I glared at him until Aunt Fel's tinkling laugh erupted from her small frame. Oh boy, you are shaken like a dog trying to pass a peach pit. Calm down. A girl hit you. Man up, she said. Darren stood up slowly, patting his jeans. I laughed and he scowled. Why don't you go see your boyfriend? He's probably worrying that his girlfriend is being kidnapped or something. Not that it matters, you hit like a man and would probably get away quickly. Darren muttered the last part to himself. I blushed at the thought of Thomas being referred to as my boyfriend. The slight red tint to my cheeks did not help my protest against Darren right now. I opened the front door and yelled out, I don't have a boyfriend. Emily. Aunt Fel's sweet voice called out. I looked back at her before stepping out into the cool night air. She winked and I knew just exactly what she was going to say. Lettin' the cat outta the bag ain't as hard as puttin' it back in, darlin'. I groaned and flipped off Darren as he fell to the ground in a laughing fit. I couldn't help but feel as if I were being watched while I knocked on the wooden door of the pack house. I quickly scanned my surroundings and silently prayed someone would open the door soon. I tried my best to hold back my tears. I felt like I was going to explode soon. You know that feeling when you finally found someone to talk to about something that was completely bothering you, and once you see them, you just break down and cry? Well, that was exactly what happened when Thomas opened the door. Through my lashes, I saw that he was only wearing basketball shorts and a t-shirt with sleeves cut off that showed off his arm muscles. I would have been drooling right now at how hot he was, but I was not in the mood for that right now. Emily. Weston's concerned voice rang out, only making my sobbing heavier and louder. He grabbed me into a hug, pressing my face into his shirt. I clutched the fabric and inhaled his smell. His warmth enveloped me as he hugged me tighter, bringing me into the house and shutting the door with his foot. I couldn't help but notice how perfectly his body fit against mine, as clitch as it sounds. Somehow, everything about him brought me comfort, even that irritating cocky smirk of his. "Sure," he whispered, smoothing my hair with his fingers. He backed away, leaving me in a cold draft. His warm fingers went underneath my chin, forcing me to look at his crystal blue eyes. What happened? I opened my mouth but closed it when Jade's voice rang out in alarm. "Emily! Emily! What's wrong?" She ran up to me, hugging me. Other footsteps followed, and I looked up to see Jet and Eli there with concerned faces. The three of them turned around, turning their concerned eyes into accusing glares towards Weston. They all spoke at the same time. "What the hell, Weston? What did you do to her? What kind of man are you? Hurting woman?" Jade scoffed, crossing her arms. "You are such an idiot. Apologize now." "Bro, you ain't my bro anymore," Eli said, shaking his head. "You." Jet threw his arms up in frustration, "are a disgrace." I snorted with laughter when I saw Weston's scared expression as the three cornered him. They all snapped their heads at me and their eyes shone with confusion. "Guys, relax. He didn't do anything." I gave a small smile and picked in my purse for the picture. My fingers trembled as I handed it to Jade. "There's not much to say. Hopefully this will explain just about it." I watched as the boys read the picture over Jade's shoulder. Horror slowly etched its way onto their faces. Thomas turned around and punched the wall, making me flinch. He grabbed his hair and groaned in frustration. Jet and Eli tried calming him down while Jade enveloped me in a hug. "Oh, I'm so sorry. By the way, I'm really sorry to interrupt," I sniffled. Then I noticed something. "Where's Warren?" "On a hot date," Eli said, licking his lips. "She's hot, man." I laughed as Jade smacked him upside the head. "Emily, you're welcomed anytime." Jade gave me a reassuring smile. "We were just watching movies." "Speaking of that, Eli and Jet, we have to finish the bet. Let Emily here calm down first before we get straight into things." I raised an eyebrow, wanting to know what bet they were talking about. "Oh, we're watching The Exorcism. Whoever lasts the longest without getting scared wins and treats the other two as he or she's bitches." I laughed at that but started snorting when Jet said, "Yeah, and Eli lost already." Eli's face turned a shade of pink. "Shut up. Who cares if I lost? That means I get to chill with Emily." Jade gave him a pointed look and nudged his arm. I looked at her questioningly, but she gave me a guilty smile. "Come on, Eli." Jade stared off into space, trying to rack up an excuse. "Don't you want to hear Jet scream like a girl?" "I've already." "Oh, shut up and come with us, will you?" I was beginning to think they just wanted Thomas and I to spend some alone time together. I gave them accusing glares as they returned to the room they were in earlier. So Thomas chuckled nervously and rubbed the back of his neck. "Let's go outside." I just nodded and followed him through the back doors into the chilly night. I already smelt the burning wood and saw the fire dancing in the dark. It wasn't long until I spotted a bag of marshmallows and sticks. "So you were out here earlier?" I asked while taking my seat next to Thomas on the log. "Yep," he said, popping the pea. He handed me a stick and put the bag of marshmallows in the middle of us. I stuck one fluffy pillow on the end of the stick and started roasting it. "So how did you hear me knocking?" He chuckled slightly. "I could smell you hundreds of miles away and I have super hearing, remember?" "Right." I was still getting used to this werewolf thing, to be honest. "The Stone Pack has this week to patrol your house," Thomas said in a sour voice after a while. I looked at him and saw his jaw clench. "Who's doing it tonight?" "Alex and Dustin. Looks like they weren't doing their jobs. You wouldn't have gotten that picture in the first place." Thomas growled but contained composure. I shrugged. "Don't blame them. Came in the mail." Unshed tears started to blur my vision. "Can we forget about this for now?" "I just want to forget." Thomas nodded and gave me a small smile. Let's play 20 questions. I gave him a sideways glance and slowly nodded at the choice of game. Okay. Chapter 15. I snorted and began howling with laughter. I clutched the sides of my stomach, trying to regain composure but failing. Thomas chuckled, amusement lining his voice. What? What's so funny? I snorted again. Your favorite animal is a dolphin. What's so wrong with that? He asked curiously, and obviously he was offended. I stuck out my chest and lowered the pitch in my voice in a failed attempt to sound manly. Oh look, I'm Weston. Macho manly, and not to mention I love dolphins. I started laughing again, snorting even. I hated my laugh, but I couldn't help it. Playing 20 questions was actually a blast. I found out Thomas liked bacon, his favorite fruits were tangerines, his favorite color was green, and he hated Chuck E. Cheese, claiming that it was an ugly rat and a stupid idea for a mascot in a kid's place. He found out that teal was my favorite color. I hated snakes and metal music. Bees are annoying. And that I had an obsession with lemonade. He also found out I love charm bracelets. All honesty, being with Thomas wasn't so bad. He was actually good company when he wasn't being conceited. So you're finally admitting the truth. That I'm macho and manly, he stated proudly, flexing his biceps. Well, the moment was good until it lasted. I rolled my eyes and laughed again, hugging my jacket closer to me. You want to know something? Thomas said. He gave me a sideways glance. I looked at him curiously with a small smile on my face. What? You look a whole lot better when you're not scowling. I smirked, not being afraid to hide my blush. So you're finally admitting I look good. Never said you weren't. Thomas glanced at me again, throwing me a wink. Can I ask you something? You already did. I smirked and poked my tongue out at him. No, seriously, he scrunched up his eyebrows. How would you put this? Met up with your dad weeks ago and he told me some things. Anger surged through me when I heard about my dad. He wasn't even my dad anymore. He was just a father. He was just someone who brought me to the world who didn't even deserve the title dad. What did he tell you? I said, evidently annoyed. I looked at the fire, trying to find something to distract me. Look, Thomas sighed. I shouldn't have brought it up. I'm sorry. I groaned. No, it isn't your fault. It's just that my dad is a total douchebag. I'm serious though. What did he tell you? Well, he said slowly, looking at me to make sure it was okay with me. I bumped into him and he was drunk. He asked if I knew you. Told me he had to let you go because his bitchy wife was worth it. Also, he told me that a boyfriend of yours left you for your best friend. My face fell when all the memories came crashing down on me. You want to know what I think? What? My voice came out in a whisper as I stared at a rock on the ground. They don't realize what they're missing. I looked at him and saw that he was watching me intently. Everything about that statement came across clear and filled with sincerity. I gave him a small smile. Thanks, I whispered. I punched him. Your dad, by the way. I laughed a little and looked up at him. Seriously? His eyes twinkled again. Yeah. He looked off into the stars sprinkling the sky, turning the stick slowly so the marshmallow will roast evenly. I could relate. Shocked coursed through me and I looked at him. What? I gasped. Thomas' shoulders sagged. This was the first time I've seen him so vulnerable. His eyes shone with unshed tears. His voice quivered when he talked, his voice also bitter. My dad, he cheated on my mom. Thomas shook and I could tell he had a hard time admitting it. I put a hand on his shoulder comfortingly, while he continued. Once upon a time, my father was on a honeymoon with my mom where he found a woman half his age that was supposedly hot and sexy. Thomas spat. Since then and for 4 years, he had an affair with that woman and my mom didn't even know. It was shortly after me and Jade's 6th birthday, and that's when my father told my mom, he will be having another baby with another woman. My mom broke down but cried even harder because she had news too. He started to cry while I held his hand in comfort, scooting closer to him. I couldn't believe I was hearing this. Let alone from Weston. Turns out she was diagnosed with cancer. She died 6 years ago on my 11th birthday. His voice cracked. I started feeling hot tears roll down my own cheek. I believe that was probably the worst birthday anyone could ever have. After her death, all my father wanted was for us to be what he wanted us to be. I don't even know who I am anymore. I was shocked to hear that our fathers had so much in common. Weston, you're you. Don't let anyone change that, I whispered to him since he was close to me. Then I allowed a small smile to play on my lips. To be honest, I find that your arrogant smirk and annoying ways are some things I wouldn't want you to change. He turned his head and looked at me while a small smile crept its way onto his lip. His hand came up to my face and his calloused thumb rubbed away my tears. He also rubbed away the crease forming in between my eyebrows as I scrunched it up in anger. You shouldn't do that. It makes you get wrinkles faster, he said. I giggled, but stopped short noticing the close proximity. I could smell him, his amazing woodsy, subtle sweet smell that always made my mouth water. The warmth from his body radiated onto mine and his fingers were still entwined with my own. The other was still caressing my cheek. I watched as his blue eyes darted from my eyes to my lips and back to my eyes again. I couldn't help but look at his lips either. It was so full and inviting, with a scar slightly marked on his bottom lip. He gulped as I quickly licked my lips. He looked into my eyes again. I know this might sound cheesy, but you want to know why my favorite color is green. I waited for him to answer. Your eyes gave me a reason to. I felt the heat rushing to my cheeks and I felt myself leaning in closer to him. He too was leaning in. My heart started echoing in my ears and it felt like it was going to explode soon. Every problem I had seemed to fade, and here sat the golden boy who helped me forget about it. His lips were just a hair's breadth away from mine now, and I couldn't help but gulp in nervousness. Just mere seconds I would have those lips for my own. That's when I heard the piercing, high-pitched shriek coming from inside the house, causing me to jump apart from Weston. I scrambled to my feet. He blinked a couple of times and I giggled nervously. Jade is a really loud screamer. Thomas avoided eye contact and rubbed the back of his neck, chuckling nervously too. That was Jet. I would have died of laughter by now, but it was kind of an awkward moment. I was so close to kissing those lips. So darn close. Those full and amazing. Oh, don't think like that, I scolded myself. I backed away slowly, pretending to look at a non-existent watch on my wrist. Oh, look at the time. It's getting late. Tell Jade I said congrats. Bye. Yeah. Shoot, Thomas muttered, trying to find distraction with the stick in his hands. He still avoided eye contact while I again laughed nervously. I quickly got in my car and made my way home, trying to ignore the rapid rhythm of my heart. Rushing into my room after getting back, I locked the door, hoping Darren would shut up about my meeting with my boyfriend. That thought just made me even redder if possible. I leaned against the white door and clutched my heart, which was still on overdrive, replaying the night I spent with Weston. I felt like my heart was going to explode soon. What is this feeling? I wasn't supposed to feel this way. I promised myself that. Wow, Darren wasn't lying when he said you had a boyfriend, a velvet voice sang out. I popped my eyes open and saw my mom walking out of my closet, holding my dress and laying it on my bed. I shook my head and even pinched myself, but sure enough, my mom was really there. I ran up to her and bear hugged her, feeling the huge grin spreading on my face. Mom, I gasped. When did you get back? What the hell are you doing here? I felt comfort and I closed my eyes as I felt her small hands pat my back. Oh, she said between choking and laughter. Honey, if you don't choke me to death, I'll be alive to tell you. I laughed and backed away. Her eyes shone with happiness as her lips stretched into a smile. I came back when you were with your man, she winked. I almost groaned but held it in. I'm here to help with Darren and Kelly's wedding, duh. She gave me that "are you stupid" look, which I laughed at. We're going out tomorrow to purchase some fabric for the wedding dresses, lunch so I could formally get to know Kelly, and going out to shop for wedding stuff. Invite your boyfriend. I want to meet him too, she continued. I looked at her in horror. But Mom, I have no boyfriend. No buts, Missy. It's either invite him or I go undercover and stalk your every move just to get to know him. Stop lying about having no boyfriend. It's evident that you do. I know you. You're my daughter. I won't get mad. You're inviting him and that's final. Fudge balls. This is so not good. Chapter 16. I flopped down on my bed, sighing as I did so. It felt good to finally relax after a long hot day. My hair was in a high messy bun and I was already in my pajamas. Wearing those skinny jeans and that flared top was suffocating me the whole day. I took a deep breath, relishing the cold air that left goosebumps on my legs and arms. Yeah, you probably guessed. We went shopping the whole day. Buying cloth for the dresses, silverware, having a meeting with the caterer and the party designer, purchasing wedding favors, trying food and drinks, and so much more. My legs were hurting like hell and my body was as stiff as cardboard. I'm sure that when I wake up tomorrow, I'll be sore to the bone. I didn't even want to eat dinner because fatigue was getting in the way. Yep, that's how tired I was. And no, I did not invite my so-called boyfriend. Besides, I didn't have one. So I pretended that my boyfriend spent the day with his father. I don't consider it lying, I was pretending. Those are two different things, right? Then my thoughts drifted to Weston. He wasn't my boyfriend, but somehow he came to mind. I involuntarily smiled while I felt the blood rush to my cheeks. He seemed so normal. It seemed like he was just a hormonal teenage boy with problems like everybody else. There seemed to be nothing about him supernatural and scary, even though he was a werewolf. I wonder why he doesn't talk about it often, and whenever I ask him about werewolves, he'll answer but quickly digress. I could slowly feel my heavy lids start to fall and the darkness tugging me. My breathing became heavy as I was completely relaxed. I hugged the pillow closest to me and invited sleep. I'm at a payphone trying to call home. All of my change I spent on you, Maroon 5 sang from my cell phone. My eyes had a hard time adjusting to the glow emitting from my phone. I groaned and stuck my hand out, grabbing my phone on the lampstand. Who the hell would be calling this late at night? Hello. I groaned into the phone when I answered it, forgetting to check who it was. Seriously, Els? Maroon 5. I heard Weston's humored voice from the other end. I'm outside, by the way. I flipped onto my back, rubbing my eyes with my free hand. What? I love them. And what did you just call me? And great. Stay outside. Ace. My new nickname for you. I didn't reply. Because of my silence, he thought I didn't get it, so he proceeded to explain to me. You know, since your name is Emily, and then I added an S. I get it, I said sternly, scratching my face. Gosh, someone's on their period. Unlike you, I don't have my period every day. Suddenly, an idea crawled its way into my head and a sinister smile stretched onto my face. Oh, now I got a nickname for you. I laughed evilly into the phone. He sounded like he choked on something. You wouldn't. I could picture his eyes bulging out of its sockets. The image of it made me laugh. Oh, I would. Whatever else. Anyways, that's not why I called. Aren't you going to invite me in? Aren't you on patrol? I asked strangely. That's the only reason he'd be outside, right? Nope, my shift's tomorrow, Wes explained. I heard a dull thunk on my window. I stumbled to the huge glass and looked outside. Of course, standing in the middle of the lawn was none other than Weston. The glow of the moonlight shone on his profile. Even if it wasn't the best lighting, I could still make out the angular shape of his jaw and cheekbones, his red full lips, his hair which he wore as a faux hawk tonight, and his crystal blue eyes that seemed to sparkle like diamonds. He wore his football varsity jacket and jeans, and man, did it make him look sexy. I got to admit, he is really gorgeous. Thanks, Thomas said with pride, interrupting my thoughts. My eyes bulged out and I stuttered. How did you know what I was thinking? It's a mate thing, honey. Get used to it. From here I could see his smirk. He pulled back his arm and threw another rock in an attempt to make me flinch. However, I just stood there unfazed. Throw it any harder, Romeo. Even if my window breaks, I won't be scared, I sighed. He chuckled. Really? If you're not going to let me in, I could go to the front door and ring it instead. No. I whispered angrily at him, pacing back and forth in front of the window. My mom could not know who he was. And Thomas is not the type of person you would want your mom to meet. That would just make her worst on my trail of having a boyfriend. If I were your boyfriend, I'd never let you go. I can take you places you ain't never been before. Thomas started belting the lyrics to Justin Bieber's Boyfriend into the phone, but I interrupted. By Weston. I sang and hit the end button, ignoring his protests. I smirked and looked out my window again, wanting to see his startled expression. However, he wasn't there. What? He was there just like 30 seconds ago. I scrunched my eyebrows together and looked towards the woods. Maybe he ran in there or something. Are you scared now? Someone whispered in my ear. I jumped a mile into the air, making my phone fly. I almost screamed, but the person clamped my mouth to shut it. Relax, Els. You're so tense. I bit Weston's hand in frustration, so he quickly pulled away, unfazed from my nibble. I quickly turned around and glared at him, but he just smiled sweetly at me. He chuckled, his face turning a shade of red, and pointed at me like he was a child. You should have seen your face. Weston, how did you get in here? I tapped my foot impatiently and narrowed my eyes. I'm a werewolf, Els. He explained to me like I was a 5-year-old flicking my nose. I rolled my eyes and crossed my arms. I shifted my weight to the other foot when Weston's eyes raked down my body. He was trying not to make it obvious, but he was failing miserably. His blue eyes turned a dark shade and it somehow got bigger than normal. Veins started to pop out slightly at his neck. I stared at him, shocked and awed at the same time. What was happening to him? It was so strange yet so beautiful its own way. It was scary but inviting. I was trying to figure this whole look out. However, he quickly shook his head and smiled. He turned his gaze up to my face. I like your pajamas. His smile widened. I blushed. I'm pretty sure I was as red as a tomato. I was in nothing but a purple, tight-fitted tank top and a really short black bottom with lace on it, and a purple ribbon at the front of the waistline. I'm not trying to be conceited, but it showed off my curves, my toned arms and long creamy white legs. Not to mention my shorts hugged the cheeks of my butt perfectly. I would have changed if you waited, you know. I don't mind, he mumbled as his eyes lazily did another once-over of my body. He sucked in a sharp breath. I really don't mind. I snapped my fingers. Hey da. He looked up at me questioningly. Yeah, eyes up here. Now why are you here? Then the strangest thing happened. Thomas Brown blushed. He actually blushed. A slight pink tinge coated his perfect cheeks. One of my eyebrows rose up in shock. I just wanted to hang out. Really? Why are you here? Like I said, I wanted to hang out, he said with irritation, scratching the back of his neck and looking at the ground. He obviously does not like to admit many things, especially when he's being nice. He lifted out a brown paper bag from his hand that I didn't notice before. His voice was so tiny when he spoke. I brought Ben Aunt Jerry's strawberry ice cream. It's your favorite, right? And I also rented a movie, I hope Captain America is alright. I blinked, shocked that he actually wanted to hang out tonight. Mostly because he was being shy. Thomas Brown shy. I stood there unmoving. He took this as a bad sign and scratched the back of his neck and looked down again. You know what? I should just leave. He hitched a thumb to the door. You can keep the ice cream. Sorry. That got me out of my shock stage. He felt embarrassed. I hated it when people felt embarrassed. Part of me was afraid to say no, another part was because he was actually being nice, and the other part wanted to hang out with him. No. I yelped and gripped his arm. He turned around and eyed me suspiciously. I let go of my death grip, straightened myself out, and coughed. I would love to hang out with you. So that's how we ended up sitting awkwardly on my bedroom couch, eating popcorn, and staring at the television. He sat at one end while I sat at the other end. I felt him glancing in my direction a couple times or so. However, I just continued to munch on my popcorn. In my peripheral vision, I saw him shrug of his jacket. He was in nothing but a white-fitted t-shirt and it looked lick your lips kind of delicious. Man, I'm really turning into a pervert. He coughed, trying to get my attention. So that's what I did. He looked nervously at his legs and scratched the back of his neck. His voice came out in a small whisper once again that night. My dad, he yelled at Jade today. He was so pissed off that he almost hurt her. He came home drunk, Els, and started calling Jade stupid just because she looks so much like Mom. I don't know. I lost control. He ran a hand down his face and he looked like a lost child. I hugged my knees close to my chest, allowing him to finish. My eyes widened on their own accord and my lips opened slightly in shock. I punched him and ordered Jade to stay with Eli and Jet tonight. I just don't get it. My dad is alpha, but I feel that my power is stronger because it's my time to reign soon. But I don't know, Els. I wished I didn't have so much power because I wouldn't have hurt the only parent I have now. I feel like my mom's looking down at me and shaking her head at me in disgust. He looked up at me through his eyelashes. I wanted to hang out with you tonight because you make me forget about things. This caused me to push myself across the couch and hug him. And it was a real hug. I wrapped my arms around his neck and pulled him to me tightly, loving his woodsy scent that surrounded me. It took him a while to respond, but I felt his strong arms slowly wrap around my waist and his face to hide in my shoulder. I felt him shaking. Strange, warm droplets fell on my shoulder, and it was soon that I realized that Thomas was crying. His sobs grew louder and his arms at my waist held on to me tighter. Emily, I disappointed her. I pulled away and looked at his face. His face was wet and his eyes were turning red. I slowly took his face in my hands, wiping the tears that fell with my thumbs. It was strange seeing a guy like him cry. And rare moments like these always caused me to feel for them. Look at me, I said, surprised my voice wasn't wavering. You did such a bold thing tonight, Weston. If your mom isn't proud of you, she's glad and happy that you kept her daughter safe. You showed her you could protect Jade and be the strong boy you are. If your mom is disappointed, it's at your dad. He nodded and his arms around me loosened. Can I please just hold you just for tonight? I slowly sank down on my butt and leaned my head on his chest, his arm going around me. You don't even need to ask, I said and smiled when I saw him grinning. Turns out we missed a lot of the beginning part of the movie. So now it was the part where Captain America shows his glorious body. I licked my lips and drooled a little. Man, that is my hero. Although I would love to see a stud in his ear. Oh gosh, he is so hot, I said involuntarily, forgetting Thomas was behind me. I felt his chest move up and down as he chuckled. He's not as hot as me. You like earrings? I rolled my eyes at his first statement and waved it away quickly. I shrugged. Earrings are sexy. But not 2 earrings, I rather prefer one on guys. Lip rings kind of scare me and other piercings in general. I like to stay pure and keep it in the ear. And no hating to those who have piercings in other places. This is just Emily's character. I have 1 earring on my nose just for proof. Wink. His hand stroked my hair slowly and as much as I hate to admit it, I loved it. Chris Evans is so much hotter than you. I mumbled and smirked. Weston's hand froze. I knew he would hear me. He feigned a gasp and said, What did you say? Chris Evans is hotter than you. I said and crossed my arms. Since his arm was still around me, he started tickling my belly. I laughed so hard I ended up snorting again. He chuckled too, knowing he got me. I tumbled off the couch and started running away from him. Hey! He yelled. However, being the fast werewolf he was, he grabbed me and pinned me to the wall, tickling my sides again. Okay. I giggle, I'm sorry. I said breathlessly. That's more like it, Thomas said with a triumphant smirk. He placed his arms on either side of me. Then it instantly dropped because he noticed how close he was to me. I felt the heat from his body radiating on my skin, and if I would bathe in it forever. The light from the television flickered on his handsome face. His woodsy smell didn't fail to make me a little bit woozy. Most importantly, his eyes held so much intensity that it made me feel wanted and adored. Was it me? Or was this moment just repeating itself again? He dragged his eyes from my own to my lips, his pupils growing bigger and turning black to crystal blue again every second that seemed to pass. I saw his Adam's apple move and down as he gulped. I couldn't help myself as I looked at his full lips too, trying to memorize every crack on it. The way the light scar line was slightly slanted to the right. I slowly brought my hand to his lips, tracing the scar on his bottom lip. Without meaning to, Thomas shuddered. I looked at his eyes, which were trained on my lips. However, he didn't move or even try to make a move. Indecision crossed his eyes. He was obviously scared like I was. But it was time to make a change. So I popped up on my tiptoes and pressed my lips onto his soft ones. Chapter 17 Weston's POV. You stupid bitch. I heard my father's voice boom throughout the house. It was slurred and hard to make out, a sign that he was drunk once again. You are so pathetic. The nights my dad comes home drunk are the nights he thinks of mom, which was practically every night. The rare nights he actually comes home sober are when he's in a meeting or doing his alpha job. It was normal in my house for dad to come home drunk. However, he never came home yelling and getting mad at anyone. He would usually just sulk off to his room and slump down in his bed. Closing the door softly, I stayed in place and listened to the yelling. My eyebrows scrunched up as I heard the soft cries of the person he was yelling at. He was probably yelling at one of the older werewolves of the pack, most likely for stepping foot in the other pack's territory without permission. You are good for nothing. My dad continued to yell, his voice shaking the picture frames in the hall. That was the beauty of being an alpha. You listen to no one, but everyone listens to you and you have complete power and the strongest out of everyone. Daddy, please. Why are you yell? Jade's voice was small, laced with confusion and hurt. My head perked up at my sister's voice. That was all it took for me to come running into the kitchen. My father's back was to me as he interrupted Jade's pleading. "Shut up, you bitch." Then he looked up at the ceiling, as if he saw God there or something. "You think this is funny?" Haunting me with a look-alike of my wife. Jade was in the corner trying to get as far away from my dad as possible. I was rooted in place, shocked at what was going on. Her red and puffy eyes met mine as she wiped the tears rolling on her cheek with shaky hands. My father took a long sip of scotch from the glass cup in his hand. After he finished it, he ran a hand in his graying hair, obviously frustrated. Looking at the glass and to my sister repeatedly, he finally swung his hand back and threw the cup, aiming for the wall right above Jade's head. Thanking my werewolf abilities, I ran in front of Jade and caught the glass just before it was about to hit the wall and shatter all over my sister. Taking the glass and slowly putting it down on the counter closest to me, I narrowed my eyes at my father. "Well, hello son," my father hiccuped and boomed at me with his alpha voice. "Now go to your room and leave me alone." It should have had an effect on me because he was alpha. I was supposed to do what I was told. However, the strange thing was I didn't. It was as if a new surge of power coursed through my body. I crossed my arms and threw him a dirty look. "No." My father looked confused, his smile dropping into a slight frown. His eyebrows shot up in surprise. I just stood there waiting for his next move. "Well then we have to do this the hard way." He smiled wickedly and started stomping towards us. He attempted to push me away, but I stood my ground. "Bitch, get out here." My father yelled at Jade, who was behind me still, his face going red. "Yes, Alpha," Jade replied monotonously, stepping around me and facing my father. She stood there like an innocent person who was put in jail. Her body was glued to the ground, while she desperately tried to wriggle out of my father's orders. Fear, hurt, confusion, and all other emotions passed her face. She closed her eyes as a tear spilled out. Just before my father was about to slap her, I grabbed his hand and punched him in the face, knocking him out in the process. I stared at my hand in shock and my father's now slumped body on the ground. Did I just do that? No. I couldn't have punched the alpha, my own father. Grabbing my hair in frustration, I yelled at Jade. "Jay, get out of here and stay with Eli and Jet for tonight. Don't come back till I say so. He'll be up soon and I don't want you to be here." I started to shake, scared and lost. I was in total deep shit. This could not be good. I pleaded to my mother for forgiveness, knowing she was up there, staring at me with a look of disapproval. I kneeled down next to my father's body. "I'm so sorry, Mom," I whispered, my voice cracking. Jade's arms went around me in a comforting hug. "Vase. Thank you," she cried and she looked into my eyes. "Mom would be proud of you." I just sat there, not responding to anything. I didn't believe what she said. How could my mom be proud when I hurt her husband? My father. Jade hugged me tighter before leaving. I sat there for God knows how long and finally shook my head. I had to get out of here. I had to see her. She's my only escape. Emily's POV. Weston's hands came down from the wall and rested on my waist. He pinned me further into the cold barrier, pressing his muscular body against mine. It was as if he couldn't get enough. Hell, I couldn't get enough either. A low growl escaped the back of his throat as his lips moved softly against mine. Damn, that was sexy. My arms snaked around his neck. My hands moved on their own accord, playfully tugging his soft hair and running through it. To my surprise, my eyes even fluttered shut. I felt his teeth nibble on my bottom lip and I moaned into his mouth. I would have fallen to the ground if it weren't for him holding me up. He was making my knees go weak. His tongue stroked my bottom lip, asking for entrance. However, I didn't like to play easy. So, I took his bottom lip in between my teeth and pulled lightly. This caused him to moan and growl at the same time. Damn, it wasn't just sexy. It was sexy as hell. He pushed himself into me harder and I could feel little Thomas getting excited. That caused me to turn as red as a tomato. I couldn't say I wasn't turned on as well. That would be a lie. Once more, his tongue stroked my bottom lip and this time, I gave him entrance. He pushed his tongue into my mouth, stroking my own. Crap, he tasted so good. A loud moan escaped my mouth as I tugged his hair in pleasure. This kiss was aggressive but kind. His lips were rough but caressing. It spoke that he's been waiting for this moment forever, but he wants to let me know he could wait. It was filled with emotions: thankfulness, adoration, fear, and so much more. I've never had a kiss so moving in my life. Because of that, I never wanted this moment to end. The way his tongue swept across mine caused my taste buds to explode with excitement. The way his strong arms wrapped around my waist told me he would protect me whenever. The way his thumb stroked circles on my lower back made me know he would comfort me and be kind with me. Just him general made me dizzy. He made me high off his scent, drool off his looks, love his vulnerability, and the way he was around me always gave me something interesting to look forward to every day. He was different. Thomas pulled out of the kiss, allowing both of us to breathe. I was panting so hard, and so was he. He rested his forehead against mine and looked straight into my eyes. I was again shocked by the darkening of his pupils and the way it grew bigger before going back to his normal, beautiful, crystal blue eyes again. His calloused hand came up to my face and stroked my cheek. His lips stretched into a kind smile as a dimple appeared on his cheek. I was pretty sure I was smiling like crazy too. He pressed his lips to mine once more for a few seconds and said, "You." Then the window Thomas was throwing rocks at a few hours ago shattered, interrupting whatever Thomas was going to say. The glass shattered into a tiny million pieces as Thomas tried to shelter my whole body with his. I let out a piercing scream. "What the hell?" Thomas muttered when we finally calmed down. He let go of me and turned around. I let my eyes wander at the tiny glass pieces on my carpet that was sparkling under the moonlight. But that's not what caught my eye. Thomas carefully walked around the shards, trying not to get his feet cut in the process. He picked up the huge rock that was now on the floor, the main cause of the window breaking. All over the rock were words written in red ink. My eyes widened, recognizing the fine print. I stood rooted to the ground as Thomas looked at me for approval to go on. My mouth felt like there were a million cotton balls in it, and my throat was unexpectedly very dry. So instead I nodded, feeling hot even when the cold air from outside was blowing across my skin. Thomas eyed me cautiously before reading the words on the rock. "I thought you wouldn't be scared even if your window breaks, love. Love, the silver bullet." Chapter 18. Never in my life have I felt so scared. I was so scared to death that I ended up shaking from it all. My palms sweating as I felt an uncomfortable heat spread through my body. I could literally feel my head spinning as my vision became blurred, black dots obscuring my sight. My ears were ringing with shock and exhaustion. My breaths came out in pants and I looked at Thomas one last time, who was currently observing the window, the rock, and the woods. I saw his nose come up close to the rock, sniffing it as his eyes turned a golden color. I was so overwhelmed from it that I let darkness sweep me off my feet. "Ace." I heard Weston's voice echo before I fell to the ground in a heap. "Oh, my baby." I heard a feminine voice sob before I felt a peck on my forehead that was all too familiar. My eyes fluttered open, my mom finally coming into view. She was seated on the couch beside me, hovering over me in an overprotective stance. Her red lips were pulled into a smile, but it was tight as she was trying her best to be strong in front of me. However, I knew it was all an act as I felt her small, petite hands shaking in fear as she moved to push a strand of hair away from my face. Even her eyes, which were swollen and lined with red from the tears that had stained her cheeks, were another confirmation of her worry. She tried desperately to fix her messed up hair because, like I said, she wanted to put the strong parent act up for me. But I was tired of her being strong for me. It's all she's ever done when she didn't even want it in the first place. Everyone knows when you're hurt, worried, or whatever seems to bring you down, all you want to do is scream it out. You want it to let it flow from you physically, even if the pain was just emotional and mental. I tried to stand up, but this amazing wave of dizziness hit me to the head and I slightly wobbled, almost falling off the couch. I felt arms grip me and motion for me to lie down again. "No way, Missy, are you getting up just yet?" my mom muttered. "How are you doing, my baby?" My mom blurted out in a rush, her voice coming out in a high pitch. "Oh, let me go tell Felly that you're ready for your soup. That's if you're ready." "Are you ready?" "I mean, we could wait." "Oh, never mind, I'll go get it." As she got up, I gripped her arm, not ready for her leave. The trace of Chanel perfume was comforting me at the moment. She smiled softly at me before she sat back down and looked at something to her right. Warren and Charles, correct?" she said politely. I followed her gaze and sure enough, there, sat on the love seat was Warren, Charles, and Thomas, who were squished up together as they tried to be generous and respectful to my mother. I knew why they were here, but my mom didn't know. So imagine my horror when I saw Warren and Charles shirtless. I knew for sure that this did not look good to my mother. My eyes widened and it felt like it was going to bulge out of its eye sockets. Afterwards, my mouth fell open on its own accord. It was partly because I was surprised that they were all caught by mother. The other part was me being the total teenage girl I am decided to check them out. And damn, speechless was an understatement. However, I couldn't help compare them to Weston. I quickly shut my mouth and watched the awkward situation unfold before me. Yes, that is correct, ma'am, Warren answered politely, giving me a small smile in an effort to comfort me. Oh, please call me Ella, my mom said with a wave of her hand while she showed off her pearly whites. This action caused my eyes to widen again. May I ask you a favor? Anything, Charles said while getting up and standing awkwardly, crossing his arms above his chest. Please help Miss Felly with the soup, and if you guys want, she added a wave of her hand, motioning to all the boys. You may eat as well. Felly's chicken and corn soup is amazing. Thank you, Ella, Warren and Charles said with a nod of their heads in appreciation. I watched their retreating backs before I turned to my mom with the best look of apology I could muster. Mom, I could explain, I started lamely, looking everywhere but her eyes before I stuttered. These b-boys were, helping me study. A long moment of silence stretched before I looked at my mother. Her eyebrow was raised and she would have laughed, but she didn't want to embarrass me. Emily, don't worry, hon. I knew why they were truly here, my mom said before giving me a lazy smile. What exactly did they tell you? I said, narrowing my eyes. Nothing you have to worry about. Okay, I said it more as a question. Don't worry about it, hon. I'm just grateful they were here, she said, glancing at Weston. That's when I actually studied the glorious boy who swept me off my feet. His hair was messed up big time. His crystal blue eyes were glazed with uncertainty, and it didn't take me long to notice the golden specks forming, his pupils dilating. He was deep in thought, staring at the far wall behind me as he leaned his chin in his fists which were propelled on his knees. He looked like a statue, so emotionless and motionless that it scared me. I was scared that if anything dared to make a move on him, he wouldn't hesitate to beat the heck out of it. What I want to know, my mom said, breaking the silence, is why he looks more scared than you do. Why he seems so overprotective of you. Even when I tried coming near, he kept you all to himself. Why? I immediately flushed, trying to hide my face in the couch cushion. I heard my mother's soft chuckle and she took the cushion that was over my face away from me. She smiled at me in a warm way, in a way a mother does to her child. Ma, there's nothing going on between us, I covered up lamely. She snorted. My mother actually snorted, and not only that, but she rolled her eyes at me. Come on. Even a blind man could see there is something clearly going on. He wouldn't be this way if there was nothing, she pointed out. We're just really good friends. It's okay, honey, to fall in love, she said quietly before holding my hand. Just because your dad and I didn't succeed in love doesn't mean it won't work out for other people. I mean, look at Graham and Gramps. They've been married for 45 years. She smiled softly at the memory before her eyes were glassy and distant. I'm sorry, Emily. About what? I said, barely over a whisper. For letting you and Darren down, she sighed. For letting you believe those silly things that love isn't worth it, because it is. It truly is a work of art. I mean, look where your fathers and my wedding led up to my unconditional love for both my kids. I know I let you guys down sometimes, and I'm not always there, and trust me when I say that I regret it with all my heart, soul, and mind. Mom, please don't. My voice wavered as I felt a tear roll down my cheek. Don't blame yourself. If anything, you're the best I could ever ask for. I felt her wipe away my tear with the back of my hand as she smiled at me. Honey, I want you to be happy. This boy, she started, nodding her head towards Thomas, and continued, is everything I wish my daughter could ever be with. Is it because he was there? No, honey. It's because I could clearly see he makes you happy, she interrupted. I glanced at Thomas again, feeling a tiny smile creep its way onto my lips. I just wished he would snap out of that daze and look at me, and I wanted him to sweep me off my feet with that amazing smile of his. The warmth of his lips on mine was my current craving, and the warmth of him near was what I was aching for. How long has he been like that? I asked curiously, turning back to my mother who was observing me. Oh, about 3 hours, she shrugged. 3 hours? I said in disbelief, my eyes wandering over to him again. What time is it? Yeah, right after you fainted and the cops came over to inspect that window. It is about midnight by now. At the mention of my window, I shuddered. I looked at my mom with fear clear in my eyes. She patted my leg, telling me that everything is going to be all right. However, I knew it wasn't. Things were getting worse. I wondered if my mom knew about my previous encounters with this mysterious silver bullet. Mom, I watched as her gaze turned to me slowly. Do you know? Hey guys, I heard someone shout through the house, the deep voice echoing off the walls. We are finally home. As if on cue, Aunt Felly came in with Warren and Charles following closely behind her. Aunt Felly had her hands in kitchen gloves, holding a pot of soup. Warren held a couple of glass bowls and spoons in his other hand. Charles held a pitcher filled with what looked like iced tea, and in his other hand, he held paper cups. I smiled as Aunt Felly instructed the boys on what to do. She then turned to me. Her face glowed and her smile widened. Oh dear, she said, patting her gray hair down. How are you feelin'? I made you some of my famous chicken and corn soup, knowing y'all love that when the rain in coming down on your sunny day. And of course, Darren chooses to come in at that precise moment, me laying in the couch with Mom close to me, Thomas in a complete haze, Aunt Felly bringing me chicken and corn soup that she always made on our bad days, and the two shirtless boys tending to Aunt Felly's orders. He stuck his head through the corridor, mouth agape before fully coming in. His thick eyebrows scrunched together as he saw the scene in front of him. Am I missing something? Hey guys, so we need to okay, wow. Now I'm confused. Kelly came in, standing next to Darren. His arm went around her shoulders as her own eyebrows scrunched up too. We'll explain later, my mom said, chuckling. So how was your movie? Well, it was good. You know, us men enjoy chick flicks so much, Darren said sarcastically. Especially since the whole reason you watched the movie was because you wanted to impress your girl. Then she says that she had a huge stomach ache, and took almost about an hour in that bathroom, he said, nudging Kelly's arm. She nudged him in the ribs and amusingly, I watched him flinch from the impact. Babe, you weren't supposed to tell anyone about my private time, she hissed, smiling playfully at him. I just wanted to share my story that my girl takes longer than me in the bathroom, he smiled cheekily at her. Oh, just shut your pie holes, you too, Aunt Felly said, placing her small hands on her hips. Before ya make these two handsome fellows throw up what they're eating from y'all smothering. Along with everyone, I laughed as I watched the two lovebirds blush. However, my laugh increased when to the point I was snorting when I heard the moans of appreciations as Charles and Warren dug their faces into their steaming bowl of soup. Soon, everyone was licking their bowl clean, wanting more and more. Everyone around me felt so safe, and I actually felt like I was in a family for once. A full and happy family. Though some people like the rest of the Stone and Crescent pack were missing. I sat up, taking my bowl of soup and drinking it. The hot soup warmed my throat and the taste hit my taste buds like fireworks. It warmed my whole insides, hitting my stomach with a sense of that home-y feeling. But it wasn't as hot as I was feeling when Thomas decided to sit beside me, taking me in his arms and kissing my cheek. I choked on my soup and regained composure, setting the bowl down on the coffee table in front of us. I hissed, but that did nothing but make him pull me closer. I was pretty sure my face was as red as Aunt Felly's toenail polish. Wes, I whispered more loudly this time. His scent was driving me crazy and his warmth was enough to make me weak in the knees. Good thing I was sitting on this couch, or else I might have fell again tonight and nobody would like to see that again. I felt his muscled chest warming my back, through our thin t-shirts. I felt his hot breath fanning my hair, and his strong arms around my waist made me feel that sense of safety that I needed right now. Just relax, Els, he whispered in my ear, kissing my earlobe. Just let me hold you. Yeah, Emily, Charles said with a mouthful. We already know you two are sort of a thing. Warren mumbled from his bowl. What? What is going on? Again, I'm lost, Darren said, eyeing Thomas and I with narrowed eyes, obviously trying to play the big brother role. If possible, my face went a deeper shade of red. Oh, quit the act, Darren John, my mom scolded. You wanted someone for your sister anyways. You said something about her being a prude and she's only 18. Mom, see now she's giving me the death glare, Darren whined, pointing to me. If any one of us good-looking people is a prude, it's me who y'all should point fingers to, Aunt Felly said, sipping her soup and ignoring our burst of laughter and snorts. Please, Aunt Fells, Uncle Sawyer loves you, I said, gasping and enjoying the chest that was moving up and down in laughter behind me. After all of us were so full, we thought we were going to burst. We finally closed up for the night. We all helped Aunt Felly clean up the mess, much to her constant protest. Darren and Kelly left up the stairs while I told Warren and Charles to go home. When I walked out of the bathroom, I was surprised to see my mother and Thomas talking in near the front door, hushed voice. Getting closer, I heard my mother say, "This was what I was afraid of. She can't know yet." I kept my footsteps light, not wanting for them to hear me. I hid behind the wall, my heart thumping in my chest at the thought of being caught. Pressing my back against the maroon wall, I peered at the two. I had a perfect view of them, but luckily I was completely hidden from them. "I understand, Ella," Thomas said tiredly, rubbing a hand down his face. "You will tell her soon, correct?" "Yes, Weston," my mom replied in a reassuring tone, throwing up her hands. "But for now." I heard Aunt Felly's small footsteps come down the stairs. Fearing that I might get caught for eavesdropping by everyone, I quickly stepped into the hall my mother and Thomas were at. They completely did a 360. Mom threw her hand down, smiling at me all too innocently. She tucked a strand of her dark hair behind her ear before shifting her weight uncomfortably. Thomas quickly straightened his posture, smiling down at me as well. So I said awkwardly, "What were you guys talking about?" "About how you should stay with Thomas tonight," my mom quickly lied. Hearing her horrible lie, my eyebrow popped up in accusation. Even Thomas was clearly surprised. His mouth flew open while both of his eyebrows scrunched up together. "Just to make my contradictions on my mother lying true," Thomas added, "we were." My mother quickly glared and narrowed her eyes at him before smiling sweetly at me. "Oh," Thomas coughed. Yes, we were. Yes, she will. I can't have her sleeping in house with no security. I would bother Darren, but he is with his own wife. "I have a strong certainty you will take care of my daughter," she said. "What?" I half yelled. "Mom, you're seriously making me sleep over with a boy." She straightened up, tilting her chin up. I could see the indecision playing in her eyes. "Yes, honey. I trust you and I trust Weston." While I stood there and gaped like a fish, Mom pushed us out of the house before she could change her mind. Even Thomas was clearly surprised, his constant blinking making it obvious. As she shut the door, I heard her yell, "Please take care of her, and I don't mean in bed." Oh gosh, save me now. Don't miss Emily's upcoming challenges. Subscribe to our channel for update notifications.